Chris, Kim, y'all are going to be working the comments, right?
I didn't hear what you said, but gotcha. Of
Y'all live in the comments for us. Help us out with questions and just chime in if we miss a big question that we need to answer.
course.
Work in the chat.
Yeah.
We're letting people in.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Welcome,
Checking it
everybody.
out.
Hello, hello. Who do we have here? Wow, everybody's rolling in.
See Coach Bunch.
Jacob, Evan. Hello,
David.
see you. David, got Daniel, got Brent here. We got Bill. Wow, Julie Kelly is here. Who else? Scott, Rob, Spencer, Tara, Todd. All the people. I can't even read. They're rolling in so fast.
Just a little closer.
Thank
There we
you.
go.
We got Stanley's note taker is here.
Love our note takers, like pumping up the attendance. Like, everybody bring their note taker
Yeah.
and we can have a bigger brag number. I like that.
So many otters. So many otters. So little time.
Hey, if y'all feel comfortable, like it would really be great if you would turn your cameras on. I could tease that we're a lot less likely to call on you if your camera's on than off, but that wouldn't be true. We just like to see your smiling faces.
Yes.
Totally get it if it's a pajama kind of day and you want to keep it off. Hi, Mary. How are you doing?
Where's everybody from today? Why don't you put in where you're from in the chat?
I think last time we had 4 continents.
Oh, wow.
So I am all for.
Amazing.
So we got the Europe and North
We
America.
got Turkey right there.
Yeah. Taiwan, got Asia.
Vancouver, Canada. Oh, Washington. Koolanta. New Zealand. There you go.
Boom.
Massachusetts, Denver, Colorado, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Portland, Oregon.
Ireland. Hey, yeah. If you're like that many hours off, you can wear pajamas.
Germany.
Totally cool.
Germany.
Germany. There we go.
Western Australia.
Australia.
Right. PJs. 4 a.m. Wow, Julie. That's amazing. That's incredible. Burton, Kansas. It's 11 p.m. in Turkey. Well, I still think Julie beats you at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
South Africa.
South Africa. Okay, so what are we missing? All right, we just need someone from Antarctica, and we've got it covered.
Do we have South America, though?
Oh,
I
I
didn't see
don't
it.
know if I saw South America. South America, if you're here, chime in.
And if you're from Antarctica, please.
Yeah, I'm not hopeful.
Let me
Kai's got
know.
some nice snow scenes behind him,
Yeah.
but I think it would be a little flatter if he was actually tuning in from
Yeah.
the bottom of the world.
Yeah.
Oh, Ecuador. Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's Mauricio. I hope I got that right. Excellent. We were in Ecuador not too long ago.
It was a while ago.
All right. I feel like our numbers have stabilized. We've now established we have 6 of 7 continents, which is pretty cool. I think that's a new record.
Amazing.
We'll set a goal to send someone to the South Pole to tune in next time.
You know what we need to do is we need to do the next one from Antarctica.
Hey, it's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
So I don't think Andrea will approve the expense. All right, folks. I'm Jay Papasan, co-author of the book. This is my lovely wife, Wendy, my partner in
Hi,
all
everyone.
things.
Wendy Papasan.
So we get to co-host this month, and we're going to be talking a little bit about taking care of business when business is disrupted. We pivoted. I'll be truthful. In December, we have one coming up. We're going to cover the one thing and ADHD. And I was originally going to be doing this with Tyler. And Tyler's in North Carolina. And he was in Asheville that was incredibly impacted by the hurricanes. And he was without power, without water. He was actually supporting a lot of other folks. And he was like, I'll still do it. I was like, you know what? Let's push, because the disasters and everything that's happened actually gives us an opportunity to talk about. There's pivoting that we do as business people, right? It's just time to turn and take a new tack. And there's also when life happens and how do we manage that? So that'll be our topic for today.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about taking care of business when business is disrupted.
Yep. If y'all can hear us both just fine, Kim, give us a thumbs up. If you can hear me and Wendy, I just want to make sure I see 2 thumbs up. Excellent. We're sharing one microphone, so I wanted to make sure that the quality was there.
It's cute.
I know. I'd like to say I'm a better sharer, but I'm not. Wendy's always wanting to share, but let's just be honest. For those of you who are new to the one thing, I see a lot of familiar faces. We're going to move through this quick, but we never want to assume with our free webinars, and these are always going to be the third Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. Central Time. That's just an easy way to remember when's the free training? Third Thursday, and it's going to be at 3 p.m. Central Time. I never want to assume that people have read the book, have listened to the podcast, or been a part of our training. So really quickly, you can put a stopwatch because I don't want to take away from our important time.
I'd be curious, who's new? Just let us know in the chat if you're a newbie. Just put newbie in
Yeah.
the chat. I'd just be curious to see who's new here.
If you're new to the one thing, just put a number 1. There we go.
There you go.
Sandy, thank you for standing up. Awesome. New but read the book. Excellent. Okay, great. So this is going to be a little helpful. And for those of you who know the book, spaced repetition is the path to true learning. So you'll just get another quick inoculation of the big ideas in the one thing. So when we build out our training, our curriculum, whether it be one-on-one coaching, group coaching, working with corporations all around the world, this is the process we follow. We've got 5 phases we move people through. We start with the vision, like who am I becoming? Where am I ultimately going? We then identify our big priorities. We create a plan around the priority. We take action, and we're a coaching company. So we're going to evaluate results, and we're probably going to do it with some accountability attached.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely the path to mastery. If you wanted to boil down the book, like the big idea, into a couple of slides, it starts with Pareto's principle. Hopefully, if you've been around the business and the personal development world, you've bumped into this idea. It's the concept is the minority of what we do gives us the majority of what we want. And it's a little crazy. It shows up as 80-20 a lot. 20% of what we do delivers 80% of what we want. And I'll tell you, in real estate, we have the largest real estate firm in the world. The top 10% sell more than 50% of all the real estate in our company. So not all people are as talented as others. Like you get unequal production from different groups. You also get unequal results from different actions. Anything you would add to this? Because you live this.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, just 20% of what you're doing is going to yield the majority of your results.
And you really did put me on a stopwatch.
Yeah, pretty good. 90 seconds.
Okay,
Great
boom.
job. High five.
The one thing is not the 80-20 principle. It's the 80-20 principle on steroids. We call it going extreme Pareto. If you've got a to-do list and it's 25 lines long, all of the stuff that you know that you have to do, and you say, well, what's the 20%? Math says that's 5. Guess what? Keep asking it. What's the 20% of the 20%? Eventually, you will get to your number 1. And that's the principle. If we always start with our number 1 priority, then we are being about as productive as we can be. In the book, we talked about the difference between activity and productivity. Activity is doing stuff. That's busyness. That's that day where you're running around all day long, going from Zoom to Zoom. You might be in the middle of one today, not sure when you're going to the bathroom, not sure when you're going to get to eat, but you're really busy. And you get home and Wendy asks you, what did you do today?
What did you do all day?
And you're like, I was busy, but you can't name the thing. That's busyness. Productivity is showing up. And even if you didn't finish it, you focused on your number 1 priority. When you act on your priorities, that is productivity, and how you get there is Pareto's principle. The tool, the shortcut, is the focusing question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier and necessary? When we wrote that question in the book, I wasn't sure it would work. And having taught this to tens of thousands of individuals and in corporations, I now know it's a very effective question. Most people do know the answer. They're just too busy to ask it. If you give them 3 minutes, they'll ask the question and they will know that is my priority.
Well, I think so many of us, like Jay said, we're just going from thing to thing all day long, and we never even take a minute to have some thinking time. And this is really a question that allows you to have even just a moment of thinking time. So I know on our team, so I run a couple businesses. I run a big real estate team here in Austin, Texas. We have a handyman and remodeling business, and then I run a business called Her Best Life, which helps women entrepreneurs. And actually, our whole team at the beginning of every day, this is the question that we ask. So we all hop on Zoom during the huddle and we ask this question, what's your one thing for the day? And it just allows every single person on the team, whether they're in sales or they're in operations, to really just say, listen, what is the most important thing to get done today? And that little bit of clarity, that little bit of thinking time is going to power your whole day.
I love that. We did that on the one thing. We have our Monday morning huddle, and the last thing we do is everybody shares what their one thing for the week is. It allows the leader to know where people's priorities are. That's great visibility. Are they acting on their priorities? And it also kind of allows us to lean in and help someone who's working on a big shared priority.
Yep.
Love that. The last piece, right, of this recap would be when you identify your number one priority, you need to schedule it. And when we schedule our priorities, the research, without going too deep, will tell you just putting it on your calendar as an intention makes you about 3 times more likely to achieve it. People who don't do that, about 35% of the time will get it done. It jumps all the way to 91% when they schedule it. 3 times more effective. That's just a simple act of putting it on our calendars. And there's a lot that goes into that. We say that we want to do things, but we haven't really thought through when we're going to do them. Do we actually have time for a new commitment? What do we have to say no in order to say yes for that? So to kind of recap those steps, and then we'll jump in. And I do think we had one question that we'll want to get to.
Okay.
I saw someone raise their hand, and so we'll get them to ask their question. And if we have to, we'll push it to the end if it's a big question we want to get to. But we're going to identify our number one priority. We're going to put it on our time block. And the thing that we can use throughout it is to ask the focusing question. And all of this is in service to a vision for our life, not just a goal for now, this week, this month. Hopefully, we're working backwards on this journey of becoming. Like this thing, my goal is just a reflection of who I want to become. What's my time? You talked a lot too.
Sorry,
I'm probably like 7 minutes in
no,
now.
you're good. You're
Okay.
good. You're good. Well, and so for those of you that are new to the one thing, that was just a recap of the book and everything that it's about. And I know that Jay and I have been personally living the one thing for probably like 16 years now, and it's tremendously changed our life in every single area. So what we're going to focus on today is really how to use the principles of the one thing in order to manage disruption, because of course disruption happens, and some of you may be on here who are suffering the after effects of one of the hurricanes that hit Florida and North Carolina. And so we're going to be going through those 6 strategies in just a second.
Yeah, we got 6 strategies for you.
So
I saw Brett, you raised your hand, actually not for a question. You raised it probably to say I'm new here. So thank you for that. Natasha, the stats, they did a study where they asked people to exercise for 20 minutes a day. It's part of my keynote when I'm explaining why time blocking works. Mm-hmm. They asked a control group to do it. 35% of them accomplished the goal. They gave a group motivation. They gave them a pamphlet on why they should exercise. I think it was 38%. They asked the last group to make an intention statement. When, where am I going to be doing this thing? A calendar invite. And the results jumped to 91. So the gap ultimately is not doing it and doing it, 35% to 91%. I hope that answers your question. All right, I'm going to jump back in. We've got some fun quotes. This is actually one that came from, I think, our 3rd or 4th book I wrote with Gary, Shift. And the most successful are those who are good at Plan B. And the longer I live and the longer I work and strive in business, the more I know this is true. No plan survives getting into the ring. No plan survives battle or engagement or getting punched in the mouth. That's the Mike Tyson quote.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, everybody has their plan until they get punched in the nose or something like that, right?
Yeah, punch in the face.
Maybe. Yeah, life's going to happen. And if you're striving, if you're trying to be the best you can be, I feel like it just happens with more frequency. So the kinds of things that we struggle with, it doesn't change. My friend, Chris Guillebeau, he wrote a book called The $100 Startup. This is one of my favorite quotes. If plan A fails, remember you have 25 more letters.
I love that.
I think the point is we have to remember there is always something else we can do. And if we walk in prepared with a plan B or a plan C or a plan Z, as the case may be, we feel better when we have to pivot because we've already thought maybe this is going to happen. And we know that the unexpected should be expected, especially in business and life.
Yeah. Well, and if you have been in business any length of time, you'd know that plan A most likely isn't going to work, you know? So,
Yeah. Gosh, that's definitely true. All right.
yeah.
So we're about to get back to the interaction. Oh, there we go. Someone helped me out. No plan survives first contact with reality.
What? That's not Mike Tyson.
No, that's not Mike Tyson. I think that's no plan survives first contact with the enemy, I think is the actual quote.
Okay.
All right. So here's the question we wanted to source from you. Please use the comments if you're comfortable. When you think about disruption while you're here today, what's the number one thing that has disrupted your plans? I mean, I can come up with a bajillion reasons. An unexpected child, right? A death, a divorce, a job change, a life change. I gave up dairy. I don't know. Like, what is it?
ADHD. Military says the enemy or the battle. Oh, procrastination. Okay. Other people. Yeah, other people aren't going away.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go. There's that Mike Tyson quote.
there we go. Thank you, Coach Bunch.
Focus, kids' plans, not mine. Right there.
Oh, kids' plans, not
Yeah.
mine. Me,
Illness,
my habits.
death,
Oh,
ADHD.
sorry, Rachel.
These are all the ADHD people who are thinking this is the ADHD webinar.
We didn't advertise it though. Oh, maybe we mentioned it last time.
They've got ADHD, so they.
Oh wow, Joey, like an in-law moving into the house, that's a major, like that's like your home where you want to be the most at home. It has those natural rhythms have been disturbed.
Spent too much time with one client. Somebody ended up in the hospital. Somebody opened another business.
Yep.
Death, yes, I had that happen to me this year.
Lots of health. Got one burnout.
Ooh.
Thank you for sharing that.
Totaled.
Oh wow,
Upset.
illness.
Philip, I'm so sorry.
That's hard.
Needing to get a restraining order against a neighbor. Okay, wow.
Wow.
That sounds like a good story or a bad story.
Yeah.
Sounds like a story. Family member illness.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I think it's safe to say lots and lots of different things show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them tragically unexpected. Some of them maybe like we know, like the people part, right? That's going to show up very regularly. Someone or something is possibly going to get in the way.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know. Is anybody here? I did not see natural disasters.
Well, it's because they're all cleaning up. They're not going to webinars right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure that they get the replay.
We'll send it to them.
All right.
Here you go. Here's a webinar to help you.
Well, we'll print it out. There we go. Dark sense of humor in our family, folks. All right. Real quick, next week, I'm going to add this because a lot of times you asked for this for almost 2 years. We finally brought it back. Our head coach, Jordan Freed, the week after on Wednesday, next week, it's at 2 p.m. Central Time. He's going to do a live coaching spotlight. And what that means, volunteers will raise their hand either with a question. What we hope last time had someone volunteer.
Free coaching.
Free coaching.
Free coaching.
And it's just a demonstration. Like, what is it? Because a lot of people, if you haven't experienced business coaching, you're like, what is going on?
Okay.
What is
the best.
He's my coach.
Okay. So how does this work? A bunch of people show up in a Zoom. They get to ask questions and he coaches them live.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody else gets to watch.
And everybody gets to watch and we all get to learn from someone's experience. Jeff Woods used to do this a lot. He did it in our community and people are like, I really miss that because I got to hear other people like coach me on my 411, coach me on my GPS. What am I missing? And just the thought process of having someone else give you perspective is enlightening to everybody.
So it's like kind of a taste of what coaching would be like. Oh, okay. You guys should take advantage of this. This is incredible. You got a QR code here.
Yep. Take a screenshot.
Scan it. Yeah. Just take your phone. You can scan that if you're on your computer. Can we do we have a link in that we can put in the chat for people who are on their phone? Okay. Yeah.
Because that way that allows us to jump into the 6 strategies.
Okay, great.
And so take a screenshot of this too. I'm going to pop this into the comments too, because I don't want to have this up the entire time we're talking.
Okay.
So let's talk through real quick, high level. I'll just copy these and we'll jump. We're going to think big and act small.
Well, before we can run down it, I just want to start by
please
just sharing, for us personally, especially me, it's been a very disruptive year. I've just had a lot of things happen with me personally. My dad died earlier this year. Last year, we moved my dad from Minnesota down to Austin. My sister, who has some developmental disabilities, she moved to Austin. it's just been a very, very disruptive year for me personally. And then just when I think I was getting a break, I got a message from my mom saying she's probably going to have heart surgery like in 2 weeks. So it's just been a hard year personally. So if you guys are suffering, I get you. Jay gets you. It's tough. It's really tough when things derail you. So hopefully these strategies can help you out a little
We
bit.
were talking like over the last 5 years, going back to 2019, every year, someone we loved very closely, family member or a best friend or a coworker has passed away.
It's been a hard 4 years, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Well, actually 5. 2019, my whole team fell apart.
Yeah.
And then 2020, I was like, woo, this is my year. Just kidding.
Well, we made it to March.
Yeah.
So I love that, right?
Yeah.
So we're also in the same boat. That's why we're teaching it. It also helps us be students and remind us of the lessons that maybe sometimes we forget.
Yeah. So we got think big, act small. Yeah. Ping pong these.
Which is so counterintuitive. We definitely want to go deeper. Use the focusing question, right? I mean, to me, that's prioritized with a certain level of ruthlessness. When things are really upset, that's when prioritization, figuring out what matters most.
Align your purpose and priorities. We're actually going to do a podcast later today kind of on this subject. It's very near and dear to our heart. It's super important when you're thinking about how do I move through stuff that's hard.
Create boundaries and say no. I think that when these things happen and we're overloaded, it's more important than ever than to give ourselves permission to just bow out of things.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of us want to help. We want to be the one helping. That's sometimes how we actually take care of ourselves, is to focus on other people versus our own grief.
True.
And sometimes you just have to say no. Like, I need to focus on my one thing for right now. Doesn't make you a bad teammate. You just have to give yourself permission.
And then you want to manage your emotional and physical health. And this can really be hard when you're really strapped for time. Like, I know for me, caretaking for my dad, it was just hard to manage my physical health and then definitely my emotional health. And we're going to give you a few strategies on how to do that.
Yep. And then stay positive. It's almost like we could have bookended it with stay positive. Like, managing your mindset is one of the most important skills. If you're on a journey of mastery, if you're on a journey of growth, if you're unwilling to just be stuck and be okay with it, you've got to manage your mindset, especially when setbacks happen and your life gets disrupted, because what happens between your ears up here impacts how you think about it, right? Like, is this the end of the world, or is this a setback? Is this an opportunity to learn? How we think about it informs how we act on it, and how we act on it informs ultimately what happens. So stay positive could be the bookend for the whole thing.
Yeah, well, and it's hard because, you've got your sort of animal brain that can take over when disruptions happen. And so you really have to, our first one is really think big, act small. And you really have to focus on what you can control. So if your life is going bananas, and you've got devastation, or you've got a hurricane, or you've got, something, the only thing you can do is focus on what's in front of you. And honestly, a lot of us are feeling very overwhelmed by the upcoming election. Whichever side you're on, it can feel very overwhelming. I know I'm getting so many text messages every day. I've got stuff in the news, and it could just feel like there's a big disaster about to happen. And so really just think about what are the small manageable tasks that you can control. So if you've got, a hurricane happening, well, you know what? Today I'm going to clean my front yard, right? That's a very small, well, I wouldn't say small, but a manageable task. You might be hauling junk out of your house. What can you control? You're not going to be able to control helping your whole neighborhood, your whole city. In some places, it's so overwhelming. So really think big, act small. Would you add anything there?
I love it. Like, I think when we ask the question and we identify what our first domino is, like, what's the one thing, like, here, what's our first domino? What's that powerful question we're going to ask? A great coach, like, this is sometimes has happened to me, and I look at it on the 411s and the goals that I review with others. A great question is like, yeah, that is the thing I should focus on, but is it within my control? And like, sometimes we get to the first domino, and in that moment in time, we actually don't have much agency there. And so the question becomes, well, how do I get agency there? Or how do I regain control? Or what can I do until that happens? And that's my favorite part of what you just shared, is that how do we identify, even if we know that's the thing, what's the element of it that we have agency and control?
Yeah.
So that we're acting and we can actually have a cause and effect and make progress, because progress ultimately will give us hope.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so good.
All right. So we got number 2, get clear with the focusing question.
Yes. So we talked a little bit about the focusing question before. Like I said, this is something that my team uses at the start of every day. And often I'm coaching my team and saying, sometimes they'll kind of slip up and say, oh, my one thing is my task list.
Yeah.
Right. Which you're like, no, is that really the one thing that's going to make everything else easier or unnecessary? And most of the time, they just haven't really taken the time to think about what their one thing is. But when you've got disruption happening, like really think about what is the one thing that's going to make everything else easier or unnecessary. So for instance, when my dad is in the hospital, what's the one thing that's going to make everything else easier or necessary? Well, for me, it's like, well, can I get someone to take over my day, right? So that I can go and spend time with them, right? That's just the one thing. I'm not going to be able to control how he feels or the hospital care or anything else that he's going to get, but I can control being there with him. And that's just really, I think it takes your brain from like, so many of us can get into overwhelm. And what the focusing question does is it just takes you from overwhelm to really that number one, which is what can you really control today? What do you have agency over?
What I love about how you do this with your team, and we do it too, is there is real magic and accountability. When you have to share what your one thing is, just in the act of sharing it, we're reaffirming it to ourselves and we're pushing forward. It also allows other people to point out, hey, is that in your control? Is that really your one thing? Or is that an 80% item? So I'll just ask a question, just so if everybody's getting comfortable listening to some of this, like put a yes or a no or a Y or an N. Do you have an accountability partner? And if the answer is yes, whether it be a coach, a peer partner, a team that you have to share your goals with, that's a yes. If not, let's do a no. I'm just curious. Thank y'all for sharing, especially the ones like the no's and not reallys. That's real. I appreciate the transparency. Yes, no, a coach. Way to go, Jacqueline. Love that. That's the highest form, in my opinion. It looks like roughly maybe a little more than 50%
Yeah.
don't currently have an environment that brings accountability, whether it be a group, a team, a peer partner, a coach or a boss. They can say, this is my one thing. And my challenge to you would be, what's the one thing you can do to get that in your life? Right? Whether it be to hire a coach, that's like the ultimate end. But if you're not there yet, like just get someone at work. Just say, hey, can we meet and hold each other accountable? I'm going to tell you what my one thing is for the week. You're going to tell me what it is. And next week, we're going to check in on each other.
Well, and sometimes I think we have to have an accountability partner, for the rest of our lives. And sometimes an accountability partner can look like just getting over the hump with whatever disruption is happening in our life. And I would also say, like, sometimes the one thing that can make everything else easier or unnecessary can be taking care of yourself or rest or time alone, or, it doesn't always have to be this like massive action step that you have to take, but it really requires you to ask the question and then think about it. Right?
Yeah.
And then do that. So
it's a little different when you serve it up in front of someone else. I'll just point out, I saw that Evan says he's got a little, and I'm just going to guess maybe that's the community, because you just shared in our one thing community that you just hit some major goals for the year long before the year was over. And so, like, whatever you're doing for that little bit of accountability, I believe it's working for you. So good job.
Yeah.
Oh, keeping a journal, Jacob. That's interesting. So you're kind of your own. I still think someone from the outside, my coach used to say, and Jeff used to say it a lot too, both of us, you can't read the label from inside the box, right? That is one of the challenges, is when we look at our own performance, we know all the reasons we didn't succeed, right? But my dad was sick, or the dog threw up on the carpet, or all the real things that happen, whereas someone from the outside just sees the results and reflects them back to us. All right, so I'm going to drop them back in here. We've had so many comments. Thank y'all for sharing.
So good. Yeah.
So boom, align with your purpose and priorities.
Yeah. So, one of the things that's been powerful for me over the years is to get real clarity around my values, the things that are most important to me. So my core values are leadership, adventure, and making a difference. And those are the things that are just the most important to me. And getting clear around my mission. And I know not all of you know your values, or not all of you know your mission, but just really getting clear about what matters most to you can help in a situation where you're feeling overwhelmed. So my mission is to empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance. And this really will dovetail with our fourth strategy, which is saying no. So, just
Can I
figuring
jump in on that
yeah, of
before you
course. Yeah, of
transition?
course.
Well, like one, like I'll just brag on my wife. If you do a 411, if you're a part of our community, you know that's a one-page set of goals. You put your annual goals, your monthly goals, and your weekly goals. Every week, we're breaking down the annual goals into bite-sized nuggets we can tackle for the week. You've organized that whole thing around your core values.
Mhm.
So every time you look at your goals, every week you're reminded of your core values and the alignment with them. And I'll just share, like, if you haven't read the book, I know some of you have just listened to the podcast when we were asking your level of involvement. There's a lot of research on why attaching your purpose, your mission to your work matters. When you feel that there is meaning behind what you do, you're less likely to quit. You're more motivated to continue. You're more likely to ask for help. All of the things, persistence, perseverance, it makes you more likely. And then when I think about the situation we're talking about here, your life's been disrupted. And we saw a cornucopia of reasons, right? Um, just big challenges show up. That's when that kind of grittiness that comes from connecting your work and what you're doing to your values sometimes matters most. That might be the only gas in your tank to get you through.
Well, and I'll give you something that's really tactical, which is someone talked about journaling. What your one thing for the day is, just keeping either your mission or your big why or your purpose or whatever you want to call it in front of you where you can see it, and also your values. So like for me, it is on my 411. I've got my mission and my values out there, but it's just a good reminder every day of like, hey, these are the things that are important to me, because as you're rolling through your busy day, it's hard to sometimes remember maybe why you started your business, or if you've got a tough time, like, why should I grind through? And keeping those just front and center. I've got my mission on my wall in my office, so I look at it every single day. So just keeping that in front and center can be really helpful.
I've shared this before, but like if you can't see, I put my core values on my phone. Research says that on average, we look at our phones, I think it's 87 times a day. And
For me,
so,
it's more.
yeah, if you're in real estate sales, it's a lot more, right? But it just is a good refresher, right? It's just something like I want to be confronted by what I said was important to me. And that's helpful. Like I love how you put it in your environment too.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm going to put them back in. Next up, we've got manage your emotional
And
and
if you
physical health.
you don't,
Oh, is that no?
I was just going to say, and if you don't know what your purpose and priorities are, I think it's worth asking the question. We're going to do a podcast this afternoon talking about core values and purpose, and I don't know exactly when that's going to drop, but
It'll drop at the end of next month, I think.
keep an eye out for that, because honestly, for me, that is the number one thing, is like to understand, like, why am I on this planet? Why am I working so hard? Why am I doing all these things? And so spending time thinking about that, if you don't know what they are, is a very valuable exercise.
Yeah, if this disruption has forced you to hit pause, that would be a really great use for your time, is to use this pause as a chance to get clear about ultimately where you're going.
Yeah.
So I almost jumped. Number 4 is create boundaries and say no.
Yeah. So I have a great example of this. So we have a good friend, Molly DeMatteis. Maybe some of you know her. She's a leader inside of Keller Williams. She has a real estate team in Asheville, North Carolina. And she is just one of these people, among many others, Chuck Johnson included, who's really stepped up to help their community. And I saw her post on Facebook one day. And I know at one point I had been reaching out to her and offering her encouragement. And she posted on Facebook and said something like, listen, I'm not going to be responding to everyone who reaches out to me, because I'm getting over 1,000 text messages every day.
George, I'll
And
shout
so,
you when you can come in. I'll shout you.
Oh, I'll ask our my co-host if they would to please put everybody on mute. I know it happens accidentally sometimes. Thanks.
On it.
So that was just a great example where she said, listen, I just am going to say no to everyone. And she's someone who's so accommodating, so friendly, so helpful, and just saying like, listen, I just can't respond to everyone right now, or probably in the near future. It's just a great example of, you got to say no, and people understand,
Yep. I think that when your life has been shaken up, like I hinted at this earlier on, that is the time where more than any other time, especially if you're a leader, right? A lot of times we feel this obligation to step into the fray because that's been the hat we wore before this disruption happened. I think that it's okay to give yourself a little grace and say, it's maybe not even a hard no. It's just a not now, right? So we can practice the not nows, even if the no's are hard, and give ourselves permission to have a little bit more time. I was going through a really tough period, and my coach Jordan was like, look, let's look at all of these competing priorities. And there are things that you can just simply deprioritize. They're actually not going to be a priority right now, which is a way of saying no to them. He goes, can you actually delay some of them, right? Put the ball back in their court. What are things that you can do to kind of push it into the future where you might have more time and energy? And sometimes if you have a team or you have someone else, you can also delegate.
Mm-hmm.
All of those are ways of saying no. And saying no is just not now, right? Can't be my focus right now. I've got bigger fish to fry. I've got to focus on this disaster or this whatever is happening in my life or just my self-care so that I can move forward and take care of the people I love.
Yeah. This is hard for me because I love to do all the things, as Jay knows. And no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. I give you permission.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Next one is to manage your emotional and physical health. And I think this can be especially hard. So many of us might be caretaking for people in our lives. And while we are propping up the emotional and physical health of the people in our lives, our emotional and physical health can deteriorate. And honestly, feeling out of control is extremely stressful. It can really add to your stress. So by focusing on some of the earlier tactics, getting clear with the focusing question, controlling what you can control, it can actually make you less stressful by really feeling empowered over the things that you do have agency over. And then, some of this is just thinking about putting your own oxygen mask on first, right? I work with a group of women leaders, and honestly, this is one of the things we talk about more than anything else, is this idea of self-care. And self-care is not getting your nails done. Self-care is not going to the spa. Self-care is really all of those things that you need to do to make sure that you are happy, healthy, and whole. And self-care can look like taking the time to do your taxes. It's not sexy self-care, but all of those things that kind of give you stress and worry. And so when you are facing a massive disruption, this kind of thing is even more important than ever. And basic things, rest, right? Get your rest. Sleep is the number one cause of ailment in America. I don't know. We have a sleep. It's like a sleep, what do you call it? It's like a sleep emergency, really, situation. If you're not getting
a sleep deprivation crisis.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. If you're not getting at least 7.5 hours of sleep, you're probably hurting your health, right? You're probably hurting your health. Making sure you're eating right, which is hard, which is really hard if you don't have any time. And then, making sure you're hydrated.
So I think that's where some of these play together, and you hinted at this. Like you might have to say no to some things in order to take care of yourself, and you have to give yourself permission. And I know that for some of you, that's especially tough if you've got a role. And like I remember watching in COVID as you're leading these other lady leaders, a lot of them are in positions where they had to wear multiple hats, like they're the mom on duty. And now they've got kids and dogs running between their legs while they're trying to be a leader at work. And they're trying to care for their other lady leaders on their teams. And like, so how do you give yourself permission to step back and make sure that that's the oxygen mask on yourself? You've got to take care of yourself so you can be there to ultimately take care of the people you love. If you don't do that at some point, if you don't take breaks and don't give yourself breaks, you will eventually break down. That's just the hard truth.
Yeah. And I could do, I mean, I have done whole webinars just on this alone.
Jacqueline, like eat during webinars as I'm making an example right now. Okay.
Milo, self-care and taxes. Yes. Especially if you're self-employed.
Yes.
We had a conversation at my sales meeting yesterday about that. So, yep.
Okay. Down to the end. Stay positive.
Yeah, stay positive. So for me, this is gratitude, right? Celebrating the small wins. We do this also every single day with my team. I think they think I'm a broken record. I know they get sick of me, but we start out every day like, hey, what's the win? What's going on in your life? What's a win? Give me a win. Give me a win for the team. Give me a win. And that's how we start every single huddle. And then we end it with our one thing. And we've got 20 people on the team, takes 15 minutes. And just acknowledging and having gratitude for what you have is super powerful. And there's science behind that.
So I know in our company, we have these things called bold laws, and one of them is what you focus on expands, right? So if we take time to notice the positive, I love gratitude habits for this. So for many, many, many years, still try to do it, though we have much older kids and it's a little bit more challenging. We said at the beginning of every meal, we went around the table and said, what's one thing you're thankful for today, right? So can we just move our mind away from the troubles for a moment and realize there's always something to be grateful for. If you're on this side of the ground, you've got at least one thing to be grateful for. And there's probably someone out there, and it always feels hollow when you're hurting, that would trade places with you in a heartbeat. And it's just like you have to look up and realize, okay, there are still blessings in this moment. I know I will find them, even if I don't feel them now. And that's one of the ways we preserve hope. There's lots and lots of research on why some people survive really extraordinary circumstances, whether they're on a desert island or whatever, and maintaining positivity and hope with balancing with a little bit of rationality, not unrational hope. That is absolutely the number one indicator of who will and won't persist.
Yeah. And that's how I start, that's what I do in my journaling every day. So I always write down 3 things I'm grateful for. I write down basically my one thing for the day. I write down the exercise that I'm going to do, and then I write down the habit that I'm working on. So all of that is just quick, and then I go through my schedule, and that's my little focus for the day. So
all right, so I'm going to recap these, but then I want you to be thinking we have plenty of time left. I would love it if everybody here, if you've got a question, if there's something we said that you would like more clarity, if you've got a challenge, this is your chance. Be thinking about it. You can either DM it to me and Wendy, and we'll see it here, or you can put it straight in the comments, and we will try to prioritize. I've got Chris and Kim and some of our team members that can help spot your questions. So really quickly, while you're coming up with your questions, recap. Think big, act small, right? We're on a big journey for our life, but what's the thing that we can do that's within our control? Get clear with the focusing question. It's the heart of the book, right? It's a powerful, powerful tool. Figure out
on the back of the book. Is that where it is? I should
yeah.
know that.
Yeah. So instead of putting quotes and everything, we've got on the back, some of them, the older books just had a question mark. But that's the one thing we wanted people to do when they read the book was ask that question. If there was only one thing, that would be it. Align your purpose and priorities. When we bring the power of purpose to what we do, we can make it through just almost anything. I think, was it Nietzsche? He said, man can survive any what if they have a big enough why.
Look at you, just pulling a Nietzsche quote out.
Yeah, don't ask me to spell his name. That's not going to happen. Create boundaries and say no.
Yep, say no. No is a complete sentence. Manage your emotional and physical health. And I probably would almost put that at the top. And then stay positive, which is your mindset. And that looks like, for many people, gratitude, celebrating the small wins, and really just, again, what you focus on expands.
Yep. And thank everybody for being real and sharing your challenges. There's some people in this group that have some real big challenges. As we turn to answering the questions, I'm going to leave this up for a second. We obviously have our last in-person goal setting retreat coming up next month. We're just under a month away. Oh my gosh, we are under a month away. It'll be November 14th through the 16th.
You guys, I'm so excited.
Yeah. We've been doing this for 8 years. We've been doing it. This is our 19th year.
Yeah, we're almost, how many? Got a few tickets left.
We got a few tickets. We have some in person. We also have live stream, since we do have 6 continents represented here. For those of you who don't want to buy an international ticket, deal with jet lag. We do have live stream options available. So our friends down under that are getting up at 4 a.m. to watch us,
Although
might be a long day.
Austin is nice this time of year.
Yes, Austin is
Yeah.
wonderful.
And we will treat you to some, if you fly from Australia, we will treat you to some nice barbecue. Yeah.
Kim Zerhoff, who is one of our coaches and our director of growth, is in the comments too. She helped us design some leadership packages. So if you want to have a group purchase, very affordable, they will actually be coaching you on how to facilitate this where you are.
Yeah.
I want to bring my team through this, and we're going to do it from New Zealand. Great, awesome. Kim and Jordan, our head coaches, they will walk you through how to be the facilitator, watching the live stream, hitting pause, how to make sure that everybody has a great experience, and then give you coaching on the backside.
Well, and I would say one of the things we didn't talk about was this idea of having a plan in place. So we should have done that. This should have been one of the strategies. But really, if you're thinking like, gosh, my life is kind of topsy-turvy, one of the ways to overcome that is to have a plan that you can fall back on. And so what the one thing goal setting retreat does, which is in beautiful Austin, Texas, is you will leave with a plan for success. Okay, so that's why this is something that you guys should consider if you're feeling overwhelmed. Come to the retreat and leave with a plan for 2025, so that if life gets in the way, which it always does, then you can circle back around, and that's your accountability in so many ways.
I'm going to ask Kim and Chris if you could, or Andrea, to put the link for that in the comments so that we can all get to see each other's smiling faces again. I want to go back to grid view because I like to see everybody.
Debbie, I have a squirrel brain too, so I feel you.
All right, so Debbie, is that something that you would like coaching on? Like, what do you do? If someone on your team said, I have a squirrel brain right now, how would you coach?
I work with all real estate agents. They all have squirrel brains. It's actually a requirement for real estate. Yeah. I think it's a superpower. Your squirrel brain is a superpower. It actually is. And, my motto used to be variety is the spice of life. That really was my motto before we started the one thing. And, you got tons of ADHD in your family. Our kids both have ADHD. And I believe it is actually a superpower. But what's great about it is you got to harness that superpower. And the way you do that is some of these strategies that the one thing gives us, so that we wake up every day. And we don't have to get the whole day right. That's the thing. We do not have to get the whole day right. All we have to do is master that one thing, knock that out right away. And then if you want to ping pong around the rest of the day, you're probably going to be 99% more successful than the rest of the population, even those people who don't have squirrel brains. So.
Yeah. And most successful people don't have like a perfectly time-blocked day. They usually launch their day with purpose. They do their one thing, and the rest can be a little chaotic. But because they're doing that consistently, they're lining up those dominoes. You wouldn't believe it. All right. So, Chris, chime in if we're missing something. I'm going to try to scroll through here. What do you do?
Jay, there was one. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. There was one from earlier that I believe Ilya is how you pronounce it, asked. And it was in reference to the focusing question. And he was saying, well, what if you have competing priorities? And he was asking if there was multiple sales calls you have to make. And I also have a deadline to meet. And I think this is a common foundational question or challenge that people have. Objection. I thought maybe it'd be good to circle back to.
A great question.
I mean, I don't think that competing priorities is I'm standing in the middle of the house is on fire, and I have to choose which kid to run out of the house with. So like I always come back to like a lot of times it's not, do I have to ultimately choose forever between these two? It's which one do I do first? And so I almost always come back to the focusing question. Like if you only could do one, which would it be? Chances are you can do one and then do the other. The second one may be a little late. You may have to apologize. There may be other things that come.
One kid might get burned to death.
Well, that's it. Like that's going to happen. That's not going to happen. Like that's not where we live. Most of the time, it's like my boss is telling me to do this thing. My boss is telling me to do this thing.
Hopefully your wife comes first. Yeah.
You can get your own butt out of the house, right?
Yeah.
But you look up and maybe your boss is telling you to do something that you don't think is the priority, but they're making it the priority, but you know that you should do this other thing. How do you juggle those two? I always come back and I just ask the question, which one is ultimately more important? And then try to do them in that order. Mm-hmm. It's very rarely one or the other. It's usually one, then the other. What would you add to that?
No, I think that's great. And sometimes things do feel very equal. That's just part of it. Some
Yeah.
things do feel very equal. So the trick there is to just knock out one, right? Just do it. Don't waste a lot of time over analyzing. A lot of us get ready to get ready.
Yeah, don't do both of them at once. That's like a surefire way. That's a great way to screw up two things at once, not do two things at once. Hey, Chris, are you going to fire them off, or you or Kim? I'm happy with it, or I can start.
Here's
Fire
the
away.
next question.
Y'all take turns. Y'all take turns.
Yeah. What to do if your resources are constrained or missing and can't get your one thing done?
Okay. If you focused on your one thing and you gave it your all, you had a successful day. You cannot control the outcomes. There are days that you will do everything right and still lose. Period. That's actually a lot of days. But the people who show up every day and focus on the one thing get stronger, they get better, and their batting average, their success percentage goes up over time. Where other people quit, they keep going. It's the whole premise of the book. So what I would tell you is the day that you went to the gym and you had nothing in the tank and you only did a few reps of this or that, and then you went home and said, man, that was a horrible day at the gym compared to yesterday where I set a PR and did all those things. Actually, that's the day you should be celebrating because you made it to the gym. You focused on your one thing. And believe it or not, that'll add up to progress. So if you can't tell, that's like a big soapbox thing of mine. I feel very strongly about don't beat yourself up for not getting the outcome. We are entitled to our labors, but not the fruits thereof. Someone really famous said that somewhere, right? But like, love the labor, right? Fall in love with showing up to do your one thing, and the results will ultimately come.
Yeah, that's so good.
Nothing to add.
All right.
Wow.
Nice. Next question. I thought Joey had a really interesting one. His question is the one thing about choosing one business to do or choosing one thing to do / focus on or what? So a little bit of the big and small application.
I can take this one.
Fire away.
Yeah. So I run multiple businesses, Joey, and a lot of the thinking time for what happens in the week for me actually comes during when I work on my 411. So if you're not familiar with the 411, it's really sort of a strategy session you have with yourself for your week. You have it a longer one once a month and then a shorter one once a week. And so what I'm doing at that strategy session is I've actually got my priorities for the year, broken down priorities for the month, broken down priorities for the week. And then I'm looking at those priorities for the week, and then I've got my calendar out, right? So I've got my calendar out and I'm thinking about what I can accomplish, not just a day, but really a week. Like it's almost like a week at a time and then a day at a time. And so then I'm looking at my time blocks for the week and I'm taking my priorities and then I'm plugging those priorities into my calendar. And for so many years, I used to have this like kind of priority sheet, but I didn't really line it up with my calendar. And once I kind of figured that part out, and then so I guess what the answer to the question is really like, okay, you can fit both of them in a week, maybe not in a day, but really thinking that little bit bigger picture of the year, of the month, and then the week, and then having that strategy session with your calendar every single week is going to allow you to accomplish more things. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but that's
you're living it.
Yeah.
I'll throw out a question. It may not exist for you. My coach asked me this because I was a part of 3 businesses when we launched the one thing. And he goes, you're about to be in the spotlight, Jay, and people are going to be expecting you to live this at a high level. And so how are you going to say that you're leading all of these things at one time? And so we spent some time thinking about it. It was Glenn Neely. Remember Glenn?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And we asked the question, if I could have one core habit that I was building, one primary activity, what could I do that would serve all 3 businesses? What would be the one thing I could do that, again, aligning the priorities? What all businesses need is great talent. Every business needs a steady supply of talent. Like, who are the people that will be making the widgets and selling the widgets and teaching the widgets and all of the things? Like, how do you line that up? So I built almost 14 years ago a habit around meeting talent. Because I was like, okay, I'm an author. I can generally send someone a LinkedIn and they will respond because we've built a reputation that serves me. I can uniquely be valuable to all three businesses in networking. And I won't go down that. That's a whole other class. But Joey asked the question, is there one thing that you could do to align the priorities and be serving both businesses in one time block? That would be a super hack for you.
Super hack.
Kim, are you up?
Yep, I'm up. So Stephen asked, I'm starting a new coaching business from scratch. I think my one thing is getting in front of potential clients and strategic alliance partners. What do you think? And I responded in the chat, and I'd love your take as well. I said I would suggest getting super clear on who you want to impact and what problems you want to solve for first. And yet, what's your take on that, Jay and Wendy?
Ask the question again, put it on a bumper sticker, because I want to make sure I'm really clear on the question before I dive into an answer.
Yep. I'm starting a new coaching business from scratch. I think my one thing is getting in front of potential clients and strategic alliance partners. What do you think?
Well, that's technically two things, is it not?
Getting in front of two people.
Or are they the same?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
For most businesses, lead gen is going to be your number one. Marketing, prospecting, getting clients and future clients, getting business and future business. The companies who do that best tend to solve all the other problems, right? I don't think there's any company that went under because they had too many business leads.
Yeah,
That's just not going to happen. So I suspect that that's probably the answer without going into the minutia between the two audiences. But if they're both business development activities, that's probably your one thing. And the mistake in our coaching that we see most often is people neglect it when they get a client to service the client. They service the client and then realize they don't have a next client. And they get on this roller coaster where they don't have enough and they never get to invest in their business. So I would say biz dev, whatever you want to call it.
And if you're interested in starting multiple businesses, it's always easier if there's some overlap. All of my businesses, the clientele can be similar. And this productive business is Jay's business, but we just, at the goal setting retreat in November, actually a bunch of people from my business are going to be attending the goal setting retreat. So that just, I know that doesn't always align, but that can be helpful.
Katana asked, can couples come to the event? It started as a couples goal setting retreat, but so many business owners and singles came, we had to open it up and call it a goal setting retreat. So yes, absolutely. A lot of people come with their life partner, some come with their business partner. Sorry, I jumped into the questions because I just saw that. That's my ADHD.
Yeah.
We have time probably for one more. Chris, do we have another good one?
We didn't have any. We can put the link back in, yes. And we didn't have anything else in the chat. So I'd say if we could get any from the group, that would be awesome.
Jay, there was actually one that was slipped in there, and I think it's worth, just worth kind of explaining. As somebody asked, why the last goal setting retreat? But it's so if you want to explain that, that's.
So I think if I could go back in time, like, would that product exist? Absolutely. I don't think we would designed our primary community building event around that activity.
We'll just explain what that means.
Okay, so 8 years ago, a little over 8 years ago, when we were launching the business, we wanted to build community. And I told my co-founder at the time, I said, I've learned in Keller Williams the best thing to do for that is to create a space for people to come together. And at that time, we've always been, for 18 years, we've been sharing this process with friends and family. And my co-founder had loved the process. He goes, can we build it around that? So we kind of accidentally started our number one event around the idea of it being a goal setting retreat. It's very on brand. Don't get me wrong. We follow the process. We walk people through the process.
And for those of you that don't know, this is going to be the last year of the retreat looking like this.
Right. It'll be our last in person devoted solely to helping people set goals for 2 days and get a bigger vision for their life.
But the best part is the new event is going to be bigger.
It's a top secret. If you come, if you come to the event, we will do the big reveal. But we've reimagined what it would be. If I could go back in time, I would have started where we're going next year. We will still be coming together. We will still be building community and learning from each other, but it will be a little bit more broadly applicable to more groups and have a broader value proposition. So living your one thing, we're going to keep helping you do that through events. It's just changing a little bit. And never fear, we will still help you goal set. That won't go away. It just won't be the sole focus of the event.
We love it.
Yes.
We love it. We love it.
All right.
So
I'm going to
yeah,
say thank you.
thank you.
Because our job is to help people honor their time and
Yes.
invest it better. Thank you for investing an hour with us. We hope that we see you either next Wednesday at 2 for the coaching spotlight, or a month from now, third Thursday, 3 p.m. Central. We're always trying to bring the value, and that one will be live. I think Chris will be our host, be live from the goal setting retreat.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's going to be really
That's
exciting.
exciting.
You'll get to peek inside Brazos Solve.
If you come to the goal setting retreat, then
Maybe you too
then-
can be in the
then
webinar.
you can be in the webinar. Yeah. Yeah. So
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
bye, y'all.
Thanks, team.